Charisma Quotient. I'm your host, Kim Seltzer, a dating and makeover expert, where I will help you build confidence, make connections, and find love from the outside in. It's not easy to rescue yourself from a bad relationship when you sort of feel like you belong there. I know that sounds strange, but it would seem that leaving an unhealthy or toxic relationship would be a no-brainer. And your friends and your loved ones, like everyone sees it, but they can't understand why you would stay in something so awful. But it's not that simple. With relationships, leaving is often more of a process than it is an event. So that's the first thing. And even though it may seem like a logical thing to do, there are many reasons why you may stay in something, even if you are in an unhealthy or toxic situation. So one of the biggest reasons, and this is just coming from a psychological standpoint, is that the emotional abuse that's often attached to that toxic relationship destroys your self-esteem, and it makes it feel impossible to start fresh. It's hard in an abusive relationship to leave after you continuously been made to feel worthless and like there's no better option out there. And because of the impact unhealthy relationships can have on your self-worth, leaving can take extra time, mental energy, pep talks with friends, and extra large dose, and this is the most important, of self-love before you are ready. And of course, doing the work, right? I had a client who actually became a success story after working together to break the pattern of attracting a string of abusive relationships. And this really started from her family of origin. She decided to invest in coaching with me because she realized a lot of her childhood pains were impacting her ability to find the healthy relationships. So it was like a broken record, right? Like she was recreating the same relationships over and over and over again because it had to do with those feelings of self-worth. She felt like that's all she deserves. And she didn't know, quite honestly, what it even felt like to have something different. And she felt like she was, sociable and she was out there dating, but she saw that she was attracting the wrong guys, and she tended to get into these relationships where she never would get her needs met. And with men who, guess what, treated her poorly. But this is what she knew. And she developed this limiting belief that she wasn't good enough and found herself accepting crumbs just to try to gain a semblance of validation and attention. And by the time she picked up the phone for the very first time to talk with me, she was in a place where she really didn't think she deserved a good relationship. And this was evidenced by so many things. I mean, she was a people pleaser. She definitely had guilt around, a lot of things. She had a hard time expressing her needs. She had an anxious attachment style when it came to even dating. And she just didn't feel like she deserved much other than what she was attracting. But after doing a ton of work in various programs I offered, she shifted beyond her wildest dreams, and she started to learn how to date differently, increase her self-worth. And because of that, she attracted this amazing man into her life. And she ended up coming onto my episodes where I talk about my success stories. They're called Where Are They Now episodes. And you can listen to Meredith talk about her story and how she overcame it. So you may find you're in a place where the narrative in your head sounds like, who am I? And do I want more? I'm not perfect. Who am I to be happy? Questioning all these things that might be going on in your head, or who will even want me? I hear that a lot. So the important thing to remember is that you are worthy. You will be happy. You do deserve more, and you will very much be wanted. Know that successfully leaving an unhealthy relationship is complicated, but once you do, and you do the work, you will experience a healthy love, a real connection that is reciprocal. And so with me today, I have a very special woman who was able to break out of an abusive marriage and find a healthy love now. And now she empowers others to do the same. She's known as the Heck Yes Coach. I love that. And spent 2 decades in public education and specializes in professional development, training professional adults, and public speaking. She's also an entrepreneur and a writer who who brings her passion for the art of the spoken word to people who need help finding their voice. She is passionate about coaching women to turn life's painful no's into life and business and into empowered opportunities to find the yes. Her mission is to empower and educate women to elevate their voice and story through podcasting, writing, and other media. She is the co-founder of Casa Media, and that's the production, and as well as the host of 2 podcasts, one of which I was honored to be on, called Radical Audacity and Mastering the Podcaster Mindset. She left a cult-like religion. I definitely want to hear her story, and is a survivor of a toxic, abusive marriage. She weaves in her personal experience to create empathy and connection with the women she serves. Welcome, Tiphany Kane.
Thank you. Thank you for that beautiful introduction. And that was a lovely story about your client being able to break through her old limiting beliefs. And that's my story as well. And I think it's a lot of people's story. So
absolutely. Well, and that's why I kind of wanted to just set the tone of this, because I think so many people listening can relate. And by the way, it doesn't have to be, the extent of, certain abusive relationships. I mean, there's all kinds of abuse. There's all kinds of toxicity, but your story I know is really inspirational, and I don't even know all of it. So yeah, I do want to start with your story, and I'd love to have you share a little bit of like just how you overcame that too.
Well, okay. So my story, I have to start a little bit in my youth to understand, set the tone for my marriage. I was raised in a cult-like religion. And in this religion, girls are raised to basically get married, right? You don't date to find out who would be a good partner. You date to get married, and you get married very young. And girls are subservient. The man is the head of the house. You live to make him happy. You serve him, right? And even in my religion, women were not allowed to pray without a head covering in a man's presence, even to herself, and certainly couldn't pray out loud when a man was present, because he was the voice of God. He had access to God. And, because I have, if I can get a little graphic here, breasts and a vagina, somehow God couldn't hear me, right?
Right.
So this was the religion I was raised in. At 19, I realized I had a lot of moral issues with the religion. They did not embrace not alternative lifestyles. They didn't embrace people being who they were, So for instance, LGBTQ, that was a mortal sin according to this religion. And it just didn't sit with me. That was a big turning point for me. It was like, I'm not okay with this. So at 19, I packed up my car and drove 3,000 miles away from Florida to California. It meant I lost my family. It meant I lost my friends, but that was what I call my first act of radical audacity. That was when I said, okay, I have to make a decision that's in alignment with who I am, rather than staying in this quote unquote comfortable place where I have family and friends and, rules to follow. And I know where I fit in there, it just wasn't right. But you can take the girl out of the religion, you can take the girl out of the situation, but those lessons are deep rooted, and without help, you can't unlearn them. And so when I came out to California, probably within a year and a half, 2 years, I met the person that would then become my husband. I was still in that mindset of you date to get married, right? So I was not dating to figure out what I wanted in a man. I was dating to get married, and we got married. And there were red flags from day one, big, giant, glaring red flags with flashing lights on them and music. But I just thought, well, this is what relationships are like. And I just need to do everything I can to make him happy. And he was a person who could never be happy. He just wasn't a happy person. And it was always my fault. Right. And, you mentioned that abuse isn't always like a big, physical thing. it starts out quiet. It starts out as gaslighting, as I never said that, or you misunderstood me, or you're remembering the situation wrong, or that never happened, or you like to make everything about you, don't you? And so it starts as gaslighting to the point where you do start questioning yourself. Well, did I remember that wrong? Like, am I, well, maybe I am just too emotional. Maybe he's right, and your confidence starts eating away. And then for some people, that's the extent of the toxicity. And then sometimes it escalates into physicality, and so I did experience it escalating into some physicality. And it took me 19 years to leave. It takes me a long time to learn lessons, I guess. But I finally left. I finally said, this is not working for me. And then when I left, I had so much unlearning to do. And it took me many years of working very hard with a coach and a therapist and to unlearn all of those behaviors and thought patterns that were harmful to me. Wow. So that's my story.
Oh my God. Thank you for sharing that. That is, I mean, you're incredible. Just how you were able to even you're like, oh, it only took me 19 years. I mean, there are people who never leave, who stay stuck in various situations that aren't serving them or good for them. And so I'm just curious, when you going back when you were in those like kind of stuck stages where you're just like, well, maybe this is all that's meant to be. And is it me? And, that kind of questioning. What were there things or steps that you took that started, I don't know, allowing you to see something else that you wanted for your life? Like, I don't know if there were like moments in time or like signs or even exercises you did for yourself.
Yeah. In fact, you know how you talk about outside in?
Yeah.
So for me, it was a moment of that. It was deciding to start running. So my second child was very little. And one of my good friends loved to do half marathons. I thought she was crazy, but she was telling me about how it made her feel good. She enjoyed it. So I thought, all right, I need to do something. I don't feel good. I pulled on the baggiest pair of exercise pants, or like bell bottom exercise pants, put on my cruddy tennis shoes, and was like, okay, I'm going to do a mile. And it was like, let me run 2 minutes. Oh, let me walk. You run it was terrible. I've been a dancer my whole life. Dancers don't run. Like, you don't want to exercise in that way. So it was like, like my body didn't want to do it. But I tried it and I did my mile and I was like, this is miserable, but there's something about it. So I kind of kept doing it, and I started with a mile, and eventually my mile, I was able to run the whole mile. And what I found was during that run, I started talking nice to myself. My mile turned to 3 miles. My 3 miles turned to 5 miles. My 5 miles turned into, I want to do a half marathon. My half marathon turned into, I want to do a marathon, because I got so addicted to the way I talked to myself when I ran. It was like, you can't be mean to yourself and do these hard things, right? It's your body is stronger than this hill. You can do that. You've had two very difficult, life-threatening pregnancies. This mile is nothing to that. You can do this. And I would be talking nicely to myself, and then the endorphins kick in, and then you're like in love with the world, and then you're like able to solve the world's problems. You're like, I should just call the president now because I can solve this Middle East issue. And like, you just feel like you can take on the world, right? And so that's where it started for me.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wait, I just want to mention something about that. That is so powerful. And even just from like a therapist point of view, like it was replacing, you replaced the negative, stuff that was going on in your mind, and you replaced it with a positive, even though in theory, when you're running, you're kind of in pain. I mean, it's not like you're right. Like a little bit, even it's the afterwards that makes you feel so good, and the endorphins start kicking in. But there was something about that kind of process where you were replacing one thing with another and connecting the mind and the body with it.
And
How
you know what
powerful.
happens
Yeah.
is in the beginning, it was just while I was running, and then I'd come home and be
Yeah.
in all my old patterns with all the
Mm.
nasty negative voices. And I was the queen of talking terrible to myself. But the more I did it and the more regular I became with it, the more those positive voices started filtering into my everyday. And I could look in the mirror and go, wow, these legs just did a 5-mile run. It's pretty awesome. Instead of, oh, these legs have dimples and wrinkles and the skin's wrinkling over my kneecap, and you know what I mean? But no, I could be like,
Right.
wow, these legs I just did a really hilly 5-mile run and I just hit my best time. Now I was never fast, but and then I started investing in myself. It's like, I need a good running bra. I need good running shoes. I don't want to run in these bell-bottom loose pants anymore that fall down while I'm running. I need some good running pants. And so it was little investments in myself as well. And then those started bleeding over into my everyday. And I would say probably within a year or two of starting to run is when I ended my marriage. Now, there were a lot of factors that fed into that, but I know my self-confidence that came from exercising is what helped me to take those very, very, very painful, difficult steps that I had to take to leave.
Oh, wow. That's so beautiful. And I can imagine, like, you listening, it doesn't have to be running. It could be, building something. It could be, doing an art project. It's focusing on something that you can build and feel good about. And then on top of it, while you're doing that, it's that positive self-talk that I love so much that, that I call gremlins, but, we all have the gremlins that go on in our head that say that we're not good enough and beat us up. And you replaced it with the positive stuff. And it's so beautiful. There was a guy that I'm working with right now, and he does that even when he like talks out loud. I call him Walter Mitty, because I'm like, you realize everything out of your mouth starts with a negative, and or Eeyore, it's like wah 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 wah. And I said, I don't want to hear it anymore. I want you to always start a sentence with something positive and something that you love about you, and replace the word but with and. Which, so there's even just the language that we use, and some of the things that you were talking about as you're running, it's so powerful. That's awesome. That is such a great tip. Were there times that you wanted to give up, where you were like, you know what, I'm not running anymore. I forget it. I'm just going to stay here. And like, if you did, how did you overcome that?
Like you said, running is a little bit painful.
Yeah. That's why I'm like, I'm sure there were times you wanted to give up. I mean,
yeah, it's the actually getting up and putting on the shoes and getting out the door. Once you're in it, once you're doing it, it's you get into a place, you get into a rhythm. It becomes a very meditative, zen, endorphin filled thing. And I think anybody that does anything, like you said, if it's painting, if it's a building project, like when you get into something, it kind of takes you to a zen place, because you're doing this thing where you're very present in the moment, and you have to be right there, and you're tapping into your creativity, or you're tapping into your inner strength to get through it. But it's that going from the couch to the door, right? It's the going from the bed to the door early in the morning. And I had 2 very, very young children and a very grumpy husband. And when you're training for a half marathon or a marathon, you're running many times a week. And a lot of times they're very long runs. What helped me was I joined a group. I joined a running club. And that helped, because then I was accountable, because I had a group that I was meeting on Saturday morning at 7:00, and I was accountable. And B, it was this wonderful camaraderie with positive people that were experiencing the same pain I was experiencing, but we would like cheer each other on and run next to each other. And if I was having a hard time, somebody would be running next to me, you got this. And if they're having a hard time, I'm next to them saying, you got this. And so I think that doesn't apply to just running. That applies to absolutely anything that you're doing. If you have a community, it's going to help you do that hard thing, whatever it is, whatever way you're investing in yourself and promising yourself that you're going to do this thing, then having that community is what helps you to actually do it.
That is a really great tip. Because I was going to say that too. It was almost like the running is a metaphor to just being stuck or maybe wanting to give up in any of the part of the process of getting out of something or doing something. Because I was going to say then kind of the other layer to that, as you were feeling good and through that process, were there times that also you didn't think that you could leave and you wanted to like just kind of go back and say, you know what, I'm just going to stay here. Like how did you then leave?
Oh yeah. I mean, come on, you're with somebody that long. Like I was with him the equal amount of time as, I met him at about 20 and I was with him for 19 years. So it was almost half my life. I knew him. We grew up together. We knew each other. And there is something utterly terrifying about leaving that. It is the societal message of, oh, you failed. You have a failed marriage. You're going to be raising your children in a broken home. These words that are used about broken home. And I'm thinking, now the most broken home my kids could be in is the one where their parents are screaming at each other and they're experiencing violence. Yes. That's a broken home. For them to be in a home with a happy mom who is living a life that brings joy and where she can have joyful, present fun with her children, that's not broken. But you hear all of that before you leave, and all of that terrifies you. And there's the money issues, and there's just so much. And there's the when you're with somebody who is a toxic person, there's the nobody will ever love you. I saved you. Without me, you can't do anything. You hear that over and over and over again. And you have to just really dig deep to get over all of that, to say, okay, I hear all this stuff, but I'm not going to listen.
Yeah, that it's like, I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Right.
And like, even though these kind of gremlins are screaming at you. Well, and what I hear a lot from what you're saying too, and so many people who've been through situations like this, there's so much fear that's attached to it. And it's like how you overcome fear as well with that. Were there certain things that you did for yourself to just like plow through it?
Yeah. For a big thing I did, I stopped drinking. One of the big things when we were together, he was an alcohol, wine and spirits salesman. And I had actually been in that business for quite a bit. And I've never been a big drinker. I've never been somebody that like gets drunk. But I learned about myself that when I drink, whether it's 1 or 2 glasses of wine or 1 cocktail, I usually don't do too much more than that. It puts me in a very passive state, right? Like I just kind of want to go to bed. I'm just tired. And I found that when I needed the strength to do the things I was going to be doing, I had to stop the drinking. I had to not be in that passive state. Plus it was a kind of a form of control. It really bothered him when he could no longer make me a drink. And he just couldn't stand it. So I realized that it was kind of maybe one of his ways of controlling me. He liked me in a passive state, So that was one thing. Another thing is figuring out who to spend your time with. I learned who would support my growth journey and my healthy journey and who wouldn't. And it is extraordinarily surprising who those people are. Often the people that you think are your ride or die aren't. And that's for their own reasons. That's, it brings up their own issues and things like that. So figuring out who's going to be there as a support system, because you need one. And I was in a group therapy program for abused women, which I couldn't have done it without that. I learned so much there, and I had a therapist, and so those things got me through for sure.
Those are so important to, because I think also that notion of control that you talked about, I'm glad you mentioned it, because usually when you're in these kind of toxic situations, that's how that person gains power over you, is to have that control. And there's little things that they do that you don't even realize that they have control over. And so I think part of what you're saying, and I know I've helped a lot of clients with this too, is how can you get your power back?
Yes.
For you, it was the drinking, and saying, no, I'm not going to give you that. I'm not going to be this passive person. I am getting my power back, regaining your power as a woman. And there's so many ways that you can do that. And it's different for everyone, I think is important. I mean, it could be just getting new clothes. It could be running. It could be, it is that sense, because then you feel like you're in control.
I think it's every small decision you make where you're choosing yourself, it ends up making a big difference. And and so it's all of these small little decisions throughout your day. If you're trying to get out of a toxic situation, you can't go from 0 to 60 right away. It's so hard, right? It very rarely can you do that, unless for some women, something drastic and dramatic happens and they have to. But I would say for the majority of women in a toxic situation, it's a little bit more subversive, right? It's not necessarily this big dramatic thing. And so you're having to make these small decisions on a daily basis that say, I'm choosing myself right now. Whether it's, I'm not going to answer this angry text message you left me, and I'm not even going to listen to the rant voice message you left me. I'm not going to do. There's one day I got 17 messages from him just ranting, and I just deleted them all. I'm like, I won't do it. And so making that decision of, I am not here to please you. I'm not going to listen to all your stuff. This is done. And, we were still together at that time. It was on the way out, but I think you're right. It's often multiple, some small decisions, some larger decisions, but constantly and continually and consistently choosing yourself.
Choosing yourself. I love, love, love that. And that's so hard sometimes for women to think about, because a lot of women choose others over themselves. And that's what gets you in trouble, and attracts some of this toxicity. And and I think another thing I want to highlight, and then move into kind of the positive stuff, because you have attracted love. And I want to hear that. Just to put a bun on what you said, is that I think, and I know this for myself, when I went through my divorce and other clients that I've worked with, is like when you are finally in a state of neutrality, where you're not getting affected by those texts, and you don't get drawn into that power control, where you don't say, oh, it must be me. When you are completely neutral and you can stand outside yourself and say, that's him, it's not me. That's when you've done the work and that you're ready to move forward. Wouldn't you say?
One of the most effective things that ever helped me, it's this imagery of a triangle and the drama triangle. I'm sure you are familiar with the drama triangle, and I'm probably going to butcher it. But basically on the drama triangle, we play different characters on the drama triangle. There's the victim, there is the perpetrator, there's what's the third one? There's the, is it like the person that like hears the story, like that's listening and participating by,
like the audience. The audience.
So when we're caught in a drama triangle, we play each of these roles, right? We will play each of these roles. And when I realized my role in that drama triangle, and I learned I could take myself out, then that was really powerful. Because what happens is, if you're most often the victim in the drama triangle, then you hang out with people where you can be the person listening all the time and, oh yeah, that's terrible. And oh my goodness. And you're just commiserating, but you're not helping. Right.
Right.
So you hang out there a lot. And then you're also the perpetrator of pain to others because you hurt so bad. And so it might be your children. Oftentimes your children are the ones that get the screamy, angry, grumpy mom.
Yeah.
Because you feel like a victim all the time. It may be your coworkers. It may be the poor checkout person at the grocery store that put the milk on top of the eggs, like because you're a victim so often, then you're also the perpetrator. And so when I learned, oh my goodness, I've done all of those things and I don't want to be that person. And you can just take yourself off that drama triangle and go, oh, it feels so much better. It feels so much better to not be on this triangle. That was powerful for me. And I had to really work with that visualization a lot. And in every situation I was in, where am I on the drama triangle right now? Where am I? All right, how do I get off it? How do I get off it?
Yeah, no, that is brilliant. I love that you brought up that triangle. I do remember learning about that too, way back. I'm glad you brought that up again. And what's so cool about it too is exactly what we're talking about, gaining your power back, is that so often we think we're powerless in those situations and that it's that abuser, right? And when you are actually in your power, you say, wait a second, if I change me, I'll get rid of that guy.
Yeah.
What? Like, and it's like, like this huge like revelation.
It is.
It's so exciting to know
so
that. And really it's a shift that goes on that happens. And so then when you go out there and date again, the signs to look for, that you're acting differently, that it's not being selfish by like demanding more for yourself. You're actually, by being selfish, you are demanding more respect for yourself. And to your point, then people around you, like your kids, see you in your power and they respect you too. So it all kind of works together in this beautiful triangle, as you put it. But like, and given that is a good segue into, so what happened next? Because you attracted this amazing man into your life and I want to hear more about it. So what happened?
So I spent a good amount of time working with a relationship coach, which is where I learned about the drama triangle, and I spent some time I was in her community, probably 5 or 6 years, and did like every program she offered. And it was so wonderful. I had so much unlearning to do. Before you can learn new things, you have to unlearn, right? And I just had so many patterns and so many things to unlearn. And so, if we just take the drama triangle as an example, it takes a lot of time for that anger to leave you. I had a lot of anger from childhood. I had a lot of, trauma from that. And I had a lot of anger from the marriage. And for me to say to my children, I'm really sorry. I reacted in this situation was not okay. This is how I should have handled it. This was not your fault. Yes, you left your Legos out and I stepped on them. And we can talk about how to not do that, but the way I escalated it wasn't okay. And I'm sorry. And to be able to do that and have that power in the most important relationship of your life with your children, then gives you the power in a romantic relationship. And so I can do that with my partner now. I can say to him, you know what? I can feel my prickly armor coming on. And these are the words I use. I can feel my prickly armor come on. I can feel myself getting really upset right now. So I'm going to step out of the room. I'm just going to leave right now. I just need time. And that's it. And he's such a wonderful person that he gives me time. And then he comes in and he wraps me in his big arms and he says, I am so sorry, whatever I did to put you in that place. I am so sorry, and
that's
usually
what you want. Yeah.
Right. There's something that triggers you that often has nothing to do with them.
Right.
It's a trigger. It's survivors of trauma have multiple PTSD type of triggers.
Yes.
But if you can recognize it, and you can step away and you're with a person that can honor that and then say, I am so sorry. I would never make you want to feel that way. That's gold. That is gold.
That is awesome. But I know people listening want to know, well, how did she do it? How did she attract this guy? So when you like going back to the beginning, did you find yourself like being different when you met him? Like what was the story when you first met him and what did you do differently this time around?
I think it's every relationship I had after my marriage, I learned something, right?
Right.
Every relationship, I learned something about me. I learned something about what I liked in a man and what I didn't like. So I was finally dating to learn rather than dating for marriage. So by the time I met him, I was about 7 years out from my divorce. And he was 5 years out from his divorce. So we were both in a pretty healed place. You know, there will always be painful points, but, you know, pretty healed. And I was just able to be present with him and just enjoy and have fun. And I mean, there's not really a magic bullet. There's not like a magic, this is the magic formula I used, but it was having good, strong boundaries. Mm-hmm. It was being open and vulnerable and being playful and present in the moment, flirting. We still flirt all the time. Gratitude, being grateful. You know, when you hear somebody like, oh, why should I thank him for taking out the trash? That's his job and he should do it. Mm-hmm. I don't care. Like when I'm at work getting a paycheck, I still appreciate my boss thanking me for a good job. Everybody likes to be appreciated for what they do, even if it's something they're supposed to do. And so just living in a place of gratitude every time he brings me a cup of tea, every time he takes the trash out, every time he brings paper towels in from the garage, every time he picks my son up from school, like being in that place of gratitude of thank you so much. And that helps a lot too, because then you're noticing the good.
Yes.
You're focusing on the good.
Well, and that's what I wondered, like when you first met him, because I'm hearing so much of you having, like, I envision you just this like giddy girl having fun. You were so like present. Mm-hmm. Was that at that state where you had done all that work and you were just like in that super like healthy state?
Yeah. And, you know, I really want to be super transparent with your listeners. This is not a linear growth. Yeah. So 5 months before I met him, I was with somebody for about 3 months. Mm-hmm. And a traumatic experience happened with that person. And basically, once again, there were some red flags that I wasn't paying attention to. And a traumatic experience happened. And so then I didn't date for 5 months. I was like, okay, I've got to I know what I need to be doing. I have all the lessons. I've done the work. Let's get back to it. So when I went on the date with him, I was from a very different place. I was like, okay, I'm ready to get back out there. I'm going to be very cautious. I'm just going to be here in the moment. I'm not going to rush anything. And I'm just going to have fun. We met on an app and dating apps are great. Pretty much everybody I met on a dating app. It's great. And it was just lovely. But I set boundaries from the beginning. Yeah. So he would text me often and I would say, you know, I am big on texting, but not somebody I'm dating. Right. Because it's just a false intimacy when you text and date. So I would say, you know, I'm not really big on dating somebody or texting somebody I haven't met yet. If you would like to give me a phone call, feel free to call me tonight. Well, after about the third phone call, I said, it's either let's go on a date. We had a date planned for Saturday, but his third phone call was like on Monday. And I said, you know, just 3 phone calls, like I can't give you much more of my time. So I'll see you on Saturday unless you want to see me before that. You know, and he was like, I have Tuesday night available, or you have Tuesday. I'm all okay, Tuesday night. And so he's all, this isn't our first date though. I planned a really good first date for Saturday. So this is our pre-first date. And we just had a lovely date, you know, but it was setting boundaries. Like, I'm not going to text too much. I'm not going to spend hours on the phone with you. Of course, saying it in a very kind, loving way, but I set my boundaries. Mm-hmm. And then every date we went on, he was so thoughtful and so kind. And he lived an hour away from me. Never once did I travel to him. He traveled to me every single time.
Oh, he's such a good boy. I like this guy. Yes.
Planning romantic dates,
Yeah.
we kind of early, it was about our fourth date. He planned an evening hike up to this beautiful, it's called Turtle Rock, where you sit up and then you can see all the lights in Irvine and the surrounding cities. And it was just really beautiful. And my friend was like, I don't like the idea. You're going on a night hike with somebody and it's only the fourth date. I don't like this. And I told him, and he took a picture of his driver's license. He took a picture of the license plate on his car. He gave them to me and he said, okay. And then he gave me the location of the hike. He said, please send all of these to your friend. I don't want her to be uncomfortable. And I was like, you're worried about my friend? So yeah, I don't want her to worry about you. I don't want her to be uncomfortable. There's my driver's license. This is the license plate on my car. Here's where we're going to be. And I was like, are you real? And it was such a lovely hike. And he had planned an evening picnic and brought extra warm layers. And it was just, so he went every single time we went out. He just went above and beyond, both to make sure I was comfortable and the people that love me, that they were comfortable with what we were doing.
See, and this is so important for you listening to hear, is that it's an interplay of, setting the boundaries, but also seeing how that other person shows up. And then also in repetition, like it can't just be one time to just show off or to show up, like to try to get you, because the toxic people will do that too.
Yes.
But I think what you're looking for is the consistency over time. But it's on you to let people know what you need, what you want. And Tiphany did that, right?
Yeah.
Like you're like, this is what I'd like. This is what I want. And he said, okay, I'll do it. And he did it. And not just say that he did it, but he followed up with action.
Yes.
And so I just want to commend you, but that was like such a beautiful testament of the work that you did, because I mean, given where you were then, where you're like, okay, I guess I'll marry this person with no boundaries and not really having the experience, within yourself and coming from the cult and all of that, to where you are now. It's so inspiring, because I know there's a lot of people listening feeling like they're in that victim mode. It's too late for me. That'll never happen, that kind of thing. Look at all that you've overcome, knowing that it can happen to anybody. But to your point, you got to do the work. So you did the work. You attracted this great guy. Oh my God, I can't wait to meet him.
And he's not the only great guy out there.
Yes.
I have many times people going, oh, you got the last good guy out there. No, there are so many good guys out there. You have to believe in the abundance, and you have to believe that they're there. And if you're looking for them, you will find them, and you'll find examples of it all around. They don't have to be romantic great guys, right? Like, is there an uncle that goes out of his way to send you a birthday card every year? Is there a friend's husband who sees you carrying a heavy bag and makes sure that he takes that bag? People, there, no romantic involvement with you at all. Are there men out there doing good things? Yes. That would want to help you? And there's so many examples. Hold the door open for you, let you in traffic, like whatever it is. There are really great men out there. And once you start seeing that, then you start calling them in, and then you're open to seeing the good men in a romantic way as well.
And then you'll see them all over the place.
All over the place.
Right? They're all just like a car that you're looking to drive. All of a sudden you see all the BMWs on the road. It's the same thing when you really tune in and you collect evidence. And by the way, I don't want to alienate the men listening, because there's great women out there too. And there's a lot of toxic women out there too.
It's the same, I think.
It's the same, and it's just, to your point, you got to see it and believe it. So, I could go on and on with you and on your podcast. I felt like we felt the same way. So
I know,
but all good things must come to an end, at least for now. And I think what you just said are great, kind of parting words of wisdom. So just let everybody know where they can find you. Do you have anything going on? Just thanks for coming on.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm probably most active on Instagram as Tiphany Kane, and Tiphany spelled funny, Tiphany Kane. You can find me on Facebook there as well, Tiphany Kane. I do have something really fun going on.
Ooh, do share.
I am partnering. I'm the Heck Yes coach, and I'm partnering with a friend of mine named Jody Riddick, who is the Be Too Much coach. And together we created a program called Heck Yes, Be Too Much. And it's a 3-day workshop where we are working with women, specifically women entrepreneurs. But how do you bring joy into your brand and have fun with your business? How do you open yourself up to opportunity and possibility? How do you make friends with money? And just how do you embrace who you are, your too muchness? Because that's what makes us great entrepreneurs, really, is we have that too much of whatever it is, and we're willing to share it with the world. And so how do you embrace that? So we're doing a 3-day workshop on that in about 2 weeks. So,
oh my gosh, amazing. Oh my God. That is so much, too much, and badass much. Like, I love all that. That is so great. Well, I hope you do it again, because I think that's something that could like just help people, no matter what, what season it is, to like that they're in the cycle of entrepreneurship, or just like finding their own, people who maybe want to become an entrepreneur too. So that's awesome. Yep. Tiphany, thank you so much for coming on, and definitely maybe we can do it again.
I would love to.
And thanks for listening today. You joining us. This has been the Charisma Quotient. I'm your host, of course, Kimmy Seltzer. And remember, you can build confidence, make connections, and find love from the outside in. And if you want to know more, make sure you go to my site, kimmyseltzer.com. And if you are having a hard time breaking free from attracting abusive or toxic people in your life, hop on a call with me so that I can help guide you to find the right path to love. Just click the link you see in the show notes to schedule that. And who knows? That one call could change the course of your entire life. And remember, working on you is working on your love life. That's all for now.